is going to be recorded though. So, and some of it, this we have like last module, we had 5 lessons is all in that module. I think this module is like 9. And we got a lot to cover in those 9 lessons within each lesson. The good news is some of it is relatively similar. Some stuff very similar. What we're going to do today is very similar to some of what we did in the first module. Quickly, what do you see? I'm going to start in the middle this time. Austin, what do you see in there? Name something you see, and if you can explain it. If you're like, I don't know what that is, tell me you know what that is. So you jump straight to the big one. There are some angles in there, right? Like that's the thing we haven't done. There's some things we have seen before. So what do you see in there, Jordan, that either tell me what it is or that you don't know? You see, all you gotta do is tell me what you see. Literally. What do you see? So we have some points, right? How do you know they're points? How do we, there's 2 things that I want to hear on this. So what about the letter? That's one of the things. What's important about the letters if they were going to be naming a point? How do we name a point? Like what kind of letters are those? Little, are they capital, right? So capital letters name points. So here's the deal. All of these are points. Remember, every line, these are called rays. I'll just kind of skip to that. Every ray, every line segment, every line that goes on forever, every shape really that we do, rectangle, circle, whatever they are. It's really all points. We have just named a few specific points out of that figure. Again, I'm not really doing a whole lot with naming as far as quizzes go, but I will tell you right now, especially considering how fast we go, you have got to immediately recognize the, I'll say shape, mostly angles today, but you got to immediately recognize what I'm talking about. And if you don't understand the naming, like really understand it, you're going to struggle. So I'm going to, well, I'll just show you now. That figure, not too bad. There's only, how many angles are in that? Malachi, I'll go to you. How many angles are in that? You already said angle. You think 3? You see 3? Sebastian, you agree with that? Now people are thinking, wait, I know some of you were thinking a different number. And now you're thinking, wait, why is there top 3? What was it? You see the 3? Anybody thought, didn't be honest, who was thinking 2? Right? 2 is actually the more common answer in that. But remember when we did line segments, and this is why I say this lesson isn't too horrible because a lot of it relates back to line segments. We started, all that work. If I don't wait a second, then it treats it all as one thing. Now, so we started with that line segment, right? That's one line segment. But then we said, let's put a point between those 2 endpoints. And what? I went wrong. And we said that creates what? 2 smaller segments, which added to the original is how we get 3. It's the same thing with the angle. We said, well, actually, let's do it on the picture. Let's do it on the picture. So I'm getting rid of, no. Let's keep the, I'll just erase this. Keep looking. Oh, why is this so slow? Oh, this is going to be a painful game. 1,000,000 degrees. Smartboard is. All right. So this big angle, we'll say, was our starting angle. Right. So there's one angle. You can see that the 3 angles. Then all we did is we drew in that line right there. Well, that ray, it's not a line again. So the quick definition of a ray, by the way, it's like in between a line segment and a line. A line goes on forever in both directions. A line segment ends at both sides. A ray does one of each. It ends at one side, has an endpoint, and then it goes on forever on the other side. That's not going to be super important in my stuff. Later. But you do need to understand what array is. The district may use more math terminology than I do, so who knows? So here is then, once I draw that line in, I now create an angle, smaller angle there. And then that means I also created another smaller angle down here. So that's where the three come, the red, the blue, and the green. Three angles. All right. I'm going to kind of jump to some stuff in a different order since we lost time on the that and then just the computer being slow. What was the big deal, the big concept I said about when we put that point in the middle of the other two endpoints? There was a mathy name of it, and then I said, I'm just going to call it this. Well, is that a midpoint? That's a good question there. Is that a midpoint? Not. How do we know it's not? Not in the middle, and we can clearly see in this one that segment is not the same length. If you took the quiz 2 days ago, you remember there was a question that asked you about whether or not a statement proves that there's a midpoint there. One statement that would prove midpoint is if it told you that the left segment was the same length as the right segment. That proves midpoint. That's the only way it can be the midpoint is if the left segment is controlling the right segment. What is true? That's not the midpoint, but what is true about that? Something, what is equal specific? Give it like more of a mathy sort of verb, or say what I say, words that I said. So if we take, so remember, if you're not remembering what I did, I actually set a tape on it. I took a pencil, sacrificed a pencil for you. Lovely. And I said, okay, this is 10 or 18 or whatever problem. And I broke it. And I said, what's true about these two? And we eventually said, well, if you started with 18 or 10 or whatever it was, and all you're doing basically by breaking it, I was basically just putting a point here where the tape is. We said, if I started with 18, this little one plus this little one still has to equal 18. And I said, I'm going to call that little plus little equals big. There's an actual name of it, line segment addition, which when we get to proofs will be a pretty common one you'll see in proofs. But line segment addition said little, I'm going to write it with a, like not the whole word, that just means little plus, so here's the other little, and then that would equal the entire big segment. It is the exact same thing in angle. All I did is I took that red angle, right? Oh, where am I at? So I took this red angle. What do you think that red angle is? How do we measure angles? Anybody? And what? Say it. We do use a protractor, but then that gives us how many? Say it again. Or say it. Degrees. Actually, that'll be your question. So we measure in degrees. Actually, I'm going to continue. Any idea approximately how many degrees that red angle is? So again, I'm asking Dominic, what is the measure of this red angle right here? The outside bigger angle. Wow, I would have said right around 80 myself. Why are we saying 80? Where are we getting that something up to? Jensen. You're done. Oh, so I'll tell you right now, not every figure on your quizzes and tests and EOCs and district stuff, not every figure is drawn to scale, meaning it's not going to match exactly what the measure of it would be if you truly measure. But if you're lost, do your best to estimate. What is that? What kind of angle is that? An L, basically. The right angle, right? Or it could be the other way if you want to be the other way. How many degrees in a right angle? 90, right? So if I imagine a 90-degree angle, that dotted line would be about where a 90-degree angle would be. I don't know that it's exactly 90. Don't assume that that is 90 degrees. If it does not have a symbol like that, that is the symbol that says it's a right angle. You don't see that unless it tells you somewhere in the problem that this is a right angle, or it tells you it's 90. you can't assume it could be 89.9 degrees. Technically, that's not 90. Some of the math that you can do when you have a right angle will not work if it's 89.9. It'd be close, but it technically would be wrong. So if that's 90, that line going straight up, I just said, well, I know it's got to be less than 90, this red angle. That's maybe, just guessing, maybe that's 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 7 degrees, 10 degrees, 12 degrees. So somewhere around 80 is how we're coming up with it. Again, that's not going to be perfect on quizzes, but if you have no idea what to do, it might help you make a better guess than just completely blindly guessing. And a lot of times passing EOCs is not about knowing how to do 40 questions. It's about knowing how to do about 20 questions and then making a really educated guess on the rest of them. Because I guarantee you, all those people that see got the difference between the 3s and the 2s, a good guessing game for a lot of people. So sometimes that's what it comes down to. All right, so little plus little is big. So that green angle, that green angle, the sort of top smaller angle, plus the blue angle is going to equal the measure of that red angle. It is just like what we did in segments. It is not that different. In segments, I then said something like, well, what if that's 3x? And what if that's 5x plus 8? And then maybe there was more information either just written or maybe they gave it to you in the actual drawing. My boy is super slow. Something like that. Yeah. And we said, all right, well, if we know and again, this is an equation. That needs to be your Bible on some of these problems for a little while. And we'll come back to it later down the road. Your Bible is that little plus little is big. That is a measure of the first little. But again, if you have not watched that video, what is a variable? Like specific to geometry, you need to watch that. It will help clarify a lot of the stuff if you're getting confused when you see a whole bunch of variables and numbers in an image like this. About to see it again in angles. And then the big is just a number. That one is just a number. So what would, actually, here's where you use the whiteboard. Write down what the equation to solve correctly for that line segment problem. I can't zoom in anymore. Hopefully you can see it's a 3x that's circled on the left, 5x plus 8 circled on the right. Write down the equation. What you would do to solve, because some of you are going to be doing retakes on those. You do not need to solve it if you want to try to work on the algebra and solve it. The biggest challenge on that red quiz was the algebra, not the setup. I think most people got the setup right, but a lot of people did not know how to do the algebra or made a mistake in the algebra. So go ahead and show me once you got it done. I think some people stopped. Actually, keep better farther away. As long as you wrote a decent size. Good. 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 All right, I need some more. You went ahead and solved it. Fine. Good. Good. All right, so I think we're in pretty good shape. I still have a few people I haven't seen, so I'm going to wait another minute or so. Oh, that's not. So did we say that those two are equal? That's what you're telling us. What did we say about them? It's right above them, actually. Word. That's good. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I don't know what you had that you colored over, but everything else looks good. That's Jordan. I want you to think about it again. And Malachi. Oh wait, did you already? So you still don't have really an equation that's correct. So I'm going to go over in a minute, try to see if you can figure it out. Remember, you're just replacing each one of these pieces in that little plus little bit. So you guys haven't really used that. You kind of created a different equation. Here's an equation like this. Problem. Oh. So that's correct. So what would that have to equal? Together. You did sort of the little plus little part. What does that have to do? What's the big? Oh yeah, some of those markers have probably been used a lot, so you need to know it. All right, so for the most part, we were okay on that. Well, you forgot one piece. You forgot one piece after the 5x. That has to do with it. But yeah, that's the concept. All right, so if you're struggling on that, you need to be doing IXLs, coming in for tutoring. That's probably the easiest thing we do all quarter, is being able to set up little plus little is big. And you're going to see it again on this angle. So it will help you to do some of those IXLs and then come in and retake the red quiz. It will also help you when we take the angle. Oh, your quiz is Tuesday on this, and you have an exit ticket Friday. This first piece of the lesson is one of your possible exit ticket questions. So we're about to get there in a second. All right. I'm not going to solve it out, but I'll just show you quickly. All I need to do is replace the pieces of little plus little is big. If the big is 20, that's what we started with, that's what that like notation is telling us. The big segment from that endpoint to that endpoint is 20. That's the big. And then I just put a point here and broke it into two smaller ones. Those are the two littles. I just replaced them in the equation. The first little is 3x. That is the measure of that first little. Don't know what number it is, but that's fine. That's the measure of it. I add that to the second little, to the 5x plus 8. That's the measure of the second little. Again, don't know what it is, but that doesn't matter. I do know what the big is, and most of you got this. Some of you did not, though. We're just replacing. Now, you have to be able to identify that you use little plus little is big. That's on you. I gave it to you this one. You got to know when you can use that. Any questions on that? And I'm not going to worry about the end. Oh, I'm going to do a video because it was very clear to me that we're still working on algebra in all my classes, not just this one. I'm going to do, and I'll show you an example of some of the types of problems that will be in it. I'll probably do like 4, maybe 5 problems that are the most common types of algebra. Again, you can have all different kind of numbers and variables to that, but it'll be the like something like this, where you have 2 variable terms on the same side. Or there's another very common problem where we have variables on both sides of the equal sign, which we don't here. There's no variables on the right side here. So I'm going to go through and do 4 or 5 problems and take my time and work through them. I've already assigned IXLs, which I'm going to show at another point during this. You gotta work on your algebra on your own. We don't hardly have time to practice the geometry, much less algebra. That's on you. They expect you to know it. You had algebra. There's not a person in here that did not complete algebra. And if you did, you need to tell me, because you shouldn't be in here if you didn't finish algebra. Now, by finish, I mean you went through it. Doesn't mean you passed it. Doesn't mean you passed EOC. But it means you had a year of algebra. If you have not had a year of algebra, you need to tell me, because this class is going to be pretty impossible if you haven't even had algebra. All right. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about retakes, since we're sort of on talking about getting the grade up, the algebra and all that stuff. You have 2 deadlines up. I don't think I've told you in this class yet that I changed the deadline yet. So this was the 4th. You can see it's just scratched out. Because you lose Monday, you're off. Hopefully everybody knows that by now. Because you lose Monday and that was already going to take a day away from you, I just went ahead and moved it all the way to Friday. So you now have, and a lot of you, I don't think, a lot of you are still getting used to that process. Some of you didn't have deadlines maybe last year when you had other teachers, so maybe you're not used to that. Some of you probably had some work to do to get where you need to be to retake it. That first one, the grades were pretty low. So I moved it to Friday. That is the deadline. Do not come to me Monday. Oh, but my bus didn't show up. I was sick. This happened, that happened. So I wasn't able to show up Friday. Don't wait till Friday. My deadline, the only exceptions I have ever made to that. No, the 6th date. The only exception I have ever made to that is a student that was like in the hospital for a week before the deadline. Not like I had a student go to the hospital that day at the deadline. I didn't change it. Because they had 2 weeks before that. They chose to wait till the last day and stuff happens. And they had to go to the hospital that day and could not come to school. It was not possible to change it. Just know my deadlines are firm. You need to get used to that. So here's the other thing I did to help you out, since we again are just getting to know each other. You're getting to know the retake process. I normally require tutoring if you got 40 or below. It's pretty hard. If you got a 0, really don't know anything. But I'm the only people that get 0s are people that just weren't here at all, or sometimes kids transfer in my class and they don't know anything. If you've been here and you took a quiz and you learned anything at all and wrote it on paper, even if it didn't have anything to do with the question, you got at least 40. So normally a 40 requires tutoring. I am going to remove that requirement for that, only for that one on the 9-6 thing. Not have to go to tutoring. You normally have to get something signed off unless you're coming to me that it's tutoring. But here's what you need to do. Let me see if I can do this easily. I may show it to you later. Shoot. I'll tell you what, I'll show it to you later. Write this down, not on your whiteboards. That's not going to be good. Write down your book, write it down somewhere where you have it. There is a video you need to watch. It's the video I recorded where I went over all the practice problems that were basically like that quiz. Well, I don't have video. I couldn't, it's not up, and I'm not going to try to find it with the slow my computer. So you need to write. There's only one thing you need to know. Write it down and put it in later. So again, I like that you had that and you do that. So you need to go to my YouTube. How do you get my YouTube? Search on YouTube, Mr. Gill Geometry, and look for pictures of the dog. Shouldn't I put in it? Have you tried it recently? I wrote like our tech department at the district and said, hey, they need this unblocked. I'll check on that. I'll check on that. Again, you guys can use your phone. If you have to use your phone, use your phone. I mean, I want you to see it, so I'll request that again. I'll go to, actually, I'm talking to Mr. Yates today. I will tell him to request it. If it comes from an assistant, it'll happen a lot faster. Yeah, they told me just to request to unblock it and then it would be done, but apparently not. You may have to it may have to load. I don't know how it works. So anyway, I'll talk to Mr. Yates about that. Mr. Yates, YouTube blocked. So again, if an assistant principal sends an email, it'll happen pretty fast. All right. Anyway, here's the name of it. You gotta watch on your phone. Watch on your phone. If you have a home computer, watch on the home computer. That was wrong. It is the one called Practice Problems. So I go through the practice problem. And then just points, lines, and planes. That's written up there. So look over there if you need. And then it says page 11. Those points, lines, and planes, page 11 are the two main things to look for. But there are a few problems that say, or there's a few videos that take practice problems. You need to look for the one that says points, lines, planes, page 11. No, I did this after you've already graded your first. So that's the other thing. It's good. That's not really a good question, but it made me think that I had already graded the quizzes when I recorded them. It was more for your retake than it was for the original quiz. So I talk about what kids did wrong. So not only do I go over the problems, which are very much like the quiz, I say, oh, and on this one, kids didn't do this or something like that. So watch that. I didn't call you. Actually, I did mention your name on it. So watch that video. And here's the deal, though. This is the one condition on me getting rid of the tutoring requirement. You've got 40. I will ask you a question when you come in and do the retake. Maybe 2 questions. Depends on how many people I got coming in. And it will be the most basic thing you should know if you watch that video, or if you just study it all. If you can't answer that, I will not, even if it's on the deadline, you will not get to do a retake. I will not extend it. You need to be prepared. And again, it will be one of the most, like, how do you name a line? 2 letters, lower, something like that. How do you name a plane? 3 letters. I mean, I'll, you know, anything at all, I'll probably let you take it. But if you can't even answer the most basic, I'm not letting you sit there and do a quiz you don't understand. It's more work for me. So make sure you watch that. If you watch it, you should do 5. I mean, the quiz was, it's literally, that quiz was the version 2 of the book problem. So it's got a different shape and different images, but the questions, I think, are the exact same questions for the most part. Anyway. Got a question? Oh, that's frozen. Oh, I don't know that I've ever said this. Great question. If you retake it, it can never hurt your grade. Grade can never, so you got a C and you're worried it can't go down. And on that red one, if you got a C, you need to retake it. Everybody should get a 100 on that one. Because most people, it was just the algebra. I'm going to do a video on algebra, so you can watch that. Some people, it wasn't even the algebra. You forgot to do this. Some people. You did all the algebra perfectly, and you said, oh, got X. There it is. And you were right. That was X. The question wasn't, what is X? The question was, how long is the line segment? And you didn't answer the question. So you dropped all the way to a 7. Actually, didn't give me an answer, much less an incorrect answer. So a lot of you just have to retake it and just read the question after it's all. No, I cannot give you any pop drops. No. We cannot give pop drops out. So I'll let somebody explain that to you if you don't get it. So again, the first one, the black one, was a tough quiz. 70 is not a bad score on the first one. I mean, if you have like high goals of getting an A in this class, then try to get higher than a 70 on the first one. The second one was not. It was 2 questions, and the first one was like super easy. You literally just had to figure out what was the length of a little segment. It was all numbers, no variable. And then the second question was, you know, something somewhat like this. You just had to know how to do the algebra. And it was little plus little is big. So get a 100 on that. And most of you don't need tutoring, because a 70, you don't need tutoring for that. And if you got a 40, you'll need to do tutoring. So get a 100 on that red one, because 30 points is 30 points. I don't care if you go from a 40 to a 70, or if you go from a 70 to a 100, it has the same effect on your grade. So don't think, oh, I'm fine with a 70. All right. Any questions on any grade stuff? All right. With that in mind, this is going to be like what could be your exiting. What I'm about to do. I think I give you the information in a little bit different way, but other than that, same concept. Actually, you know what? Since I'm recording this, you're gonna get lucky. I'm gonna give it to you exactly like I give it to you on the. So we haven't talked about naming angles. I'm gonna sort of do that myself. We did it more interactive, and we'll do, after you do this problem, we'll come back and do it, the interactive thing. Angle A, C, B. Which one is that? It's the big one, right? It's the big outside line. So angle ACB. ACB is in boy. That's the one I'm talking about right now. We're going to get to the other. That's the blue. I'm going to color coordinate for you to make it even easier. I will not do that on the quiz, but on the exit again. But that is going to equal, we're going to go with what Dominic said, 80, we'll say. Angle, and you're kind of seeing how I name angles while I do this, and then we'll go over naming. Angle A, C, D equals 2x plus 40. That one, and I haven't used green. angle DCB equals, what are we gonna go with? 7x subtract 20. I want you to solve for x. If you cannot do the algebra, at least set it up. Actually, tell you what, everybody on your whiteboard, show me the setup. And then I can say, yeah, go, and then you can start solving. Other than that, it'll be the green. So what kind of problem, like what's the concept behind this? The big overall concept. What's the concept? It's little plus little equals big again. It's the same thing we just did with the line segment. So it's like the same problem. Oh, I forgot one gigantic thing. And I'm not going to color coordinate this. What's that little thing mean? So you're going to see figures in the future, not so much right now. Yeah, but there needs to be a number. So, give me like one long, don't break it up on different rows. Give me one long equation on one row. Hard for me to tell. We're missing something in that. Oh, wait, did you? No, you didn't combine it.
What, the 40 and the 20, yeah.
But not your x.
We gotta do,
Oh, I wanna, don't solve it. I wanna see the full equation. Don't try to combine anything yet when you show me the equation. Because I don't wanna have to do that.
I mean, I can.
No, I think you're missing something. A lot of you are missing some pieces. That looks good, Sebastian. That looks good. If you wanna start solving, oh, I don't know, that. Oh, were you already solving?
Yeah.
Okay. That looks good if you wanna start solving. That, well, you wrote it, yeah, that looks good if you wanna solve. That looks good if you wanna solve. That looks good if you wanna solve. Let me go back there. That looks good if you wanna solve, Jordan. Solve. Start solving. Start solving. Start solving. So you know what's that? Okay, there we go. I thought that's what you meant. You're already solving. Oh, good.
That's pretty good.
Let me look at this one. If she wraps up. Well, so this is. Oh, you're. So that's. So. Why didn't work? I'm good.
I'm not listening to you, and it's not about you. Always get it wrong, but I'm go with my own little.
Oh, see you.
And then you match some things.
I got it. You see it on there. That looks good solved. Look at words. This is just.
Two people today, we've got chocolate, lunch, lunch.
So it goes back to second. Big.
Oh, yeah, so that's bad.
So right. Yeah, he looks like he's got the same thing, and then you should get the same thing.
He got this thing.
The dishwasher.
Someone's lying me, I can.
We don't have anything bigger than that, so we know that's bad. No, and then the other two will.
So bad.
Five. It's always just gonna be. How the line segment is really long. This line right.
Yeah.
And then the other guy like this inside lock. It's like it's red. Bad. That looks like you're not right. What I'm saying. That looks like the right thing. I don't think that is no thing. Plus 40 negative 20.
Switch.
Guess who's right and wrong? Again, Adeline. Remember you said.
Not reading.
Always rain. Yeah. So let's say something.
Well, 6.6 is clarifying.
Okay, so.
Technically, if you put that in on a district, that's wrong. Around, if you're gonna cut it off, you have to.
That's
right. No.
If you have a positive data and a negative one. Just big back, like, oh, yeah, I think I am. No, it's
Can you? I got a positive for you. One of all the equation stuff, I didn't even next is correct. You know what the number was.
You're confused. No, I'm not.
You're still confused. Yeah, you got it right there. Yeah.
I got you. I just thought you were waiting for. Look.
Again, if you, so I'll tell you right now, you are stuck, and you actually rounded, first person to actually round, sir.
Mr. Gill.
Did you? I think you're right there.
Money out of line. God. Place
If I combine two and multiplication rules, I think.
60 divided by 9.
I have 40 of something. You got $40, give me 20. What do you have?
Oh, yeah.
That's always, it's easy, as soon as I use my full bank, always like that. You have 20. You're not negative 20, you have 20. You just combine those two and turn them into negative. So I mean, I think you're thinking that I have one positive and one negative, it's negative. That's plus money and then some negative.
You're missing a very important.
Oh, yeah, you correctly. Can you do your paper and just check in the math and do that all right? What do you have? Yours from the algebra? You guys have 40. Yes, it's still. What else? I know you got one. At least she covers it up.
I like my other side. I think I got my other side.
If it's something in your. Probably. Imagine you just forgot to go back. What the big thing out of the school. Your birthday? I don't see any birthdays up there, so nobody gets any of that stuff. That's birthday. Mark. I'm about to go over here. Oh, wait, over there. Yes, so you would round it differently, you wouldn't put 6. I couldn't see if you put something after the decimal. Right, yes, that, the last step, Jordan, where you said 50 divided by 9. All right. Go again. So if you struggled on the algebra part of that, it's going to be really tough to do well on this quiz. It's not a stoop. I mean, it's just little plus little is big again. And this first angles quiz is about like this quiz as far as level of difficulty. It might be a tiny bit harder, but it's not bad. So it could be another, should be another 100 for everybody. So, yeah, it's the regular. If you got a 100, or if you don't have it yet.
That was for fun.
Well, just for time. So I'm waiting to you guys. Tell me again. I'm waiting on you guys. You take the same quiz, no matter how much I get through, so. I don't. Right now, I'm just waiting, so I need to tell you what's wrong with it. Phones need to be up, that's one thing you need to be aware of. All right, if you struggled on the algebra on that, again, some of you got help on it and then eventually got it, but that means you struggled. will not get help on it on the quizzes. You need to have that level of algebra down, back and forth. You should be able to do that in your sleep. You should get a 100 on this next quiz. You should be getting, if you don't already have it, a 100 on that red quiz. 2 100s will go a long way toward your grade. You could, well, actually, yeah, you could fail. And I'm not saying fail. You could fail every other quiz, but then add half the exit tickets in for the course. Not even all of them. And you could probably still pass. Again, I hope your goal is to do better than pass. But when I tell you a quiz is easy, don't think, oh, I don't really need to study for that one. Like, this is going to be easy. It's the opposite. Those are the ones that everybody should be busting. I mean, you should study for everything, but it's even more important when you're like, I can get a 100 on a quiz and study. So just make sure you take this one very seriously, and then you do the tutoring and or study probably for the red one and come in and do that. So really quickly, I will do a video on the algebra, so I'm going to go through the algebra really fast on this. Little plus little is big. That red plus that green equals that blue. You have a question. I think it's pretty much just like this. Well, no, it is a little bit different, but there is a question. Now, I will say, and there's a problem, I think, in a book like this, I'm not doing a more difficult one. If there's more angles involved, you got to be able to figure out which angles are the little and the like. If there was an angle coming way out here, you got to make sure you understand which angles we're talking about in the image. Sometimes I give you extra. I know for a fact on the quiz, there's like an extra angle. Just do what I did, like label. You want to, there's colored pencils. If you have highlighters, I normally write the information in. So ACD, I would write 2x plus 40 there. Again, if you see a degree symbol, it is about the angle. Write that down. If you see a degree symbol, it is the measure of the angle. Because we're going to get some images where there's measures for the line segments. So there might be a measure for how long CD is, but then there also might be a measure for that angle. You have to understand which one they're talking about. And the simple version is, if there's a degree symbol, it's about the angle. So down here, and I will write that in. Sometimes the books and worksheets don't actually write it in. If the whole worksheet is about angles, they don't always write it in. So I know that little is 2x plus 40. I kind of like circling it to show you that is the measure of the angle. That is the measure of the angle. Now I just need to add those two together and make them equal to 80. 2x plus 40 plus, that's one little, plus the other little equals the big. So super fast version of the algebra. I'm recording it so you can go back and watch it. Those are like terms. If they are on the same side, not opposite sides, but same side, I just add them together. Remember, that's like having 2 x's. That's like having 7 x's. How many total x's do I have? Then I would have 9. Unless I was subtracting them. If I was subtracting the 7, I would actually have a negative number, but I'll do a video. 40 is a like term with negative 20. So I say, okay, well, 40 subtract 20, 40 plus negative 20, whatever you want, is 20. And then I didn't do anything yet on the right. Now it's just a two-step equation. I hope you can all solve that. Subtract 20, subtract 20. And 60 divided by 9. A lot of you put 6.6. 6.6 technically would be wrong. But on the district, they do ask you to round to a certain spot. And remember, if we're going to round, we look at the number to the right, which would have been a 6, which was 0.66666 forever. I would need to round the 6 up then to a 7. We'll talk more about that when we get closer to the district stuff, but you do need to know how to round, even though I don't make it a big deal in my quizzes, because I just grade your work. And if you don't round correctly, as long as your work is good, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that is a big deal on the district stuff. All right. How do we get at it? 9:02-ish? 40 minutes. What'd we say right angle is? This is just some quick stuff. Hopefully you know this. If you don't, you need to write it down. It is not in this lesson we're in. It's in a future lesson, but since we're doing vocabulary, I'm just kind of going over some stuff. What does perpendicular mean? That's a big one. What does that mean though? How it looks. They do cross, but that their intersect means cross. Perpendicular is a specific type of intersection. Awesome. 90-degree angles, right angle. All four angles. If two lines are perpendicular, so you see that symbol for one of them, they're actually all four 90 degrees. If one of them is 90, they all have to. We're going to go over that at a later time. So perpendicular means four 90-degree angles. If you look at the walls, like those are all perpendicular lines. The ones going vertically and horizontally, that's perpendicular. And if it's tilted, it can still be 90. It doesn't have to be straight vertical and straight horizontal. It can be tilted, but all four of them would be 90. What does this word mean? What does that mean? Congruent. Congruent. What does that mean? Can't just repeat a word and explain it. Yeah, there's I don't know what it's not. Grammar is not the right word, but you can never use a word or a version of the word to define it. You got to define it. Like that's an English thing that you've probably been told. Yeah, you can't use exactly. Right? You have to come up with a different way to explain anytime they ask you that. Yeah, nice. What's congruent mean? We've already done it this year.
Isn't it where it's line?
No, I'll give you a hint though. I did this. If that is a midpoint, that is a midpoint. Let me just go over this now.
Oh,
if that is a midpoint, what's true about the left and right segment? What do we say? It's a midpoint. They're what?
They're equal.
They're equal, right? So I said I can show that to you by putting in congruence marks. Those were called congruence marks. I said sometimes I'll call them tick marks, but they're technically congruence marks. So what does a congruence mark mean then? One word. No, it doesn't mean middle. Not just little. What did we just say about those two little segments? They're what?
Equal.
So what does congruence mean?
Equal.
Equal.
Yeah.
Congruence means two things are equal. They're the same. Correct word. So write this down if you didn't get that. Congruence means they are the same measure, which would typically be degrees. If we say measure, like same measure in degrees, they could be the same length. They could be the same shape. Sometimes it's a whole shape that is congruent to another shape. Like one triangle is congruent to another triangle or something. We'll get to that. Or the bottom line is, especially if you're doing equations, they are equal. That's a big one that we're about to do in a second. Two congruent angles, two congruent lines, they are equal either in length or in the number of degrees. That's what allows you to set up an equation. If you say two things are equal, and there's like a little mini equation here, a little mini equation there, and you know they're equal, then you set those two equations equal. That's what allows you to solve. That's kind of like little plus little equals big tells you how to set up that equation. If you know two things are congruent, therefore they're equal, that's what allows you to set up that equation. All right, there's where it gets complex. That is that, yeah, that is a figure straight from your book. So that is something you are supposed to know how to understand, which is actually not that bad. So I'm going to give you a few rules, and then I'm going to ask you to do something, and then we're going to see if we got it. Here are your rules. 3 rules. So everybody, zero noise. Been yelling over you already, but you've been pretty engaged, so I'm dealing with it. Right now I need 0 noise. Rule number 1, and this is why I was very picky on the first quiz. You use 3 letters to name an angle, just like planes. That is why I was picky about you writing plane in front, because you could be naming an angle. You actually could also be naming a triangle. They use 3 letters. But 3 letters, 3 points. God, I always do that. It's not letters, they are points, but we use letters for them. So 3 points is correctly what we're doing. you have to put, kind of like we had to do plane, you have to put a symbol in front that tells us we're talking about an angle. And there's no, you don't, I mean, I guess you could write the word angle. That's not really the technical notation. You're just using an English word, the word angle. You're not really naming it. Then that's how you name it though, with that symbol. Again, and then 3 letters. And then the last one, and this is the big one. This is the one that can sometimes be confusing. It's not horrible. Here, I forgot to do this earlier, so I'll do it here. What's that called? Not the type of angle. That dot that I just put, that spot on that angle is called what? Let me just say it in this part. That is a vertex. You need to know that word, because I will use that all the time. The vertex is just the pointy part of the angle. It's like the corner, the pointy part. See, that's what I'm saying right now. So the vertex is the pointy part of the angle, the corner of the angle. How use your own words. I call it, I mean, I know what a vertex is, so I'm going to say vertex. You need to put it in your own words so you know when I say vertex what I'm talking about. If pointy part works, then we'll pointy part. If you need to write something else, put something else. But I will say vertex all the time with angles because that's what it's called. You need to immediately know where I'm talking about in the image. So the third rule is the vertex has to be the middle letter. So out of the 3, the vertex has to be the middle one. Or middle point, I should say. I'm going to give you examples in a minute. So it has to be the middle point in the name. I'm actually not going to use that one because I want you guys to use that one in a second. Anybody still writing that? All right. So now if we wanted to name the angles, actually you guys name, we'll just do this really quick. What's an angle? Somebody just say an angle. Well, no, I want to name it. Use those 3 rules. 3 rules we just did. Say it again.
ACD.
ACD, right? So it doesn't follow the 3 rules. I have the symbol, right? I have the vertex, so the pointy part. C is actually the vertex for all 3 angles, right? It's the pointy part of every angle. So C is the only vertex in that picture. It's not another vertex. So C always will be in the middle. No other letter should be in the middle. So C is in the middle. The vertex is the pointy part. And in this case, C is always the pointy part. Every angle, if I draw that angle, well, C is the pointy part. If I draw that angle, C is the pointy part. If I draw the big angle, C is the pointy part. That's the definition of vertex. I did not mean to do that. Anybody have any idea what I could also do with that same exact angle? Another way, yeah. You can reverse the first and the third letter. Again, remember, the rule just said C had to be in the middle. I don't know why I wrote D again. So I can reverse the first and the last. C has got to stay in the middle. So there really aren't a whole lot of different ways you can name an angle because the vertex has to be in the middle. So that's the angle right there. Actually, I guess we can sort of coordinate, switch to green. Give me another one. What else could we do with that?
CCA.
Yeah, we could reverse them. That is the same angle. C has got to be in the middle, though. That would be the big angle in green. And then what's the last one? We'll do in blue. And we could reverse it and say BCD. So here's why this is super important. Well, you kind of already saw why it's super important in this case. I'm going to have, or you're going to have, I should say, some figures where there's a whole bunch of angles and sometimes even more angles coming out of one vertex. And I'm just going to rattle off names of angles that I'm talking about. You got to be able to keep up. I'm not always going to go up and say, okay, this is the angle I'm talking about. I mean, I can't, don't have time to do that. And again, this is something you're expected already. No. So with that in mind, I got to make sure you're getting this. So here's what you got. 30 seconds. Name as many angles as you can name from those points. Give me at least 3 where C is the vertex. At least 3, where C is the vertex,
Oh, you gotta like,
and you got 30 seconds, go.
you gotta like.
Write them down, write down as many angles as you can write down, and then we're gonna do something with that. C is the vertex, at least 3 where C is the vertex. Oh my God.
I thought you did.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Well, actually, you'll know. Put it this way, it's not that I've never seen it, you'll know when I'm serious. If you're questioning it, I'm not sure. I will not be smiling.
Are you allowed to do more than 3?
Yeah, as many as you can. Yep. Well, you had to have at least 3 that, see, I'm, then we'll probably have the time already. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. People are gonna be put on the spot right now. Somebody's gonna give me a name of an angle, and then I'm gonna let them, if they want to, if they don't want to call anybody out, they don't have to. Somebody like these, they don't. They get to call on somebody that then has to come up and show us which angle it is. So, does anybody want to give me an angle? I'm gonna call on. How many of you answered? Jordan, you answered a few. Vixen, you haven't answered anything. Give me an angle.
BCH.
All right, so that's one that qualifies. C is in the middle, right? So that qualifies for the C being the vertex. Do you want to call on somebody, or do you want me to call on somebody? Who do you want? Really? I thought you would. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to call anybody. Then sometimes people are like, yeah, I want to call on somebody. All right, who do you want? You got to know names, so you got to be able to call them by name. Yeah. Now it's bad to be one of the kids that everybody knows. Omar, come show us where that is. I'll let you do it with a highlighter even. Highlight it in yellow, DCH. Just highlight. If you just go over it with your finger right now, it'll highlight that. I mean, literally, all you really have to do is go from the first letter to the second letter to the third letter. It's not super difficult. Oh, did it not? Yeah, sometimes that's the highlighter function. Doesn't always. Let's do this. Let's just go back. Yeah, if you don't. Oh, actually, it did there. I don't know why. That's funny. So I went from D to C to H. So again, what is the vertex of that? C. It is the pointy part. It has to be in the middle. So that's the biggest thing, is just making sure the vertex is in the middle. Good. Next. Who wants to give me one? Jason, you have not really given me much today. I'll meet you next week. What do you want? FCG. So there's another one. What's the vertex? C. So that, oh, that's fine. We can work with that. So there's another one. It's FCG. If you can't see, that's pretty light up there. Oh, the angle symbol didn't work. Do you want to call on somebody? All right. It's funny. Friends, right? Friends like that. So if you just use your finger, it should work. Oh, I guess I have did you pick the blue marker up?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
I must have had the blue marker. I don't know what I did with it. I'll go back. Oh, there. Yeah, apparently it was reading the blue marker was quick. So, all right, there you go. S. So again, all you're really doing is going from the first letter to the second letter and then to the third letter, assuming that, they've given you the all 3 letters. We'll do one more. Who wants to give me one? No, you already gave me one. I told Joel I would go ahead and I was going to call into that.
HC.
HCE. You want to call on somebody? Or you want me to call on somebody? I can pick them. All right. I tell you what, we'll take anybody want to volunteer to go up and do it.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm trying to find people that don't do it as much. I'm not gonna make her volunteer.
B.
Do you want to do it? Turn around real quick. Everybody keep doing it. Turn around. I mean, like you can stand there, that whole back corner of your head.
Y'all are all like.
I know, there's so.
Shut up. Okay.
All hops.
It won't work.
Oh,
Belly your pillow. It's further than.
Here, I mean, it's really picky with a highlighter. Oh, it's not a highlighter. So again, you just go from the first letter to the second letter, which should wind up being the vertex, to the third letter. So again, HCE, C is the vertex. So when I'm flying through it, don't freak out that I'm going fast. Just go from the first letter I say to the second to the third. That'll be the angle I'm talking about. But there will be some there really aren't any that complex, but there will be some pictures that are a little complex. So really quickly, I want you to, if you have a highlighter, go ahead and get it out. If you don't have one, then just underline them. There's a lot of vocabulary, as you can see. I tried to take some of them out that are not super, super important. Just under, they're in your book, oh, page 58. And yeah, I'm not gonna make you write all these down. Page 58, just underline the ones I've highlighted. If I've highlighted them really thick, put a star by those or an exclamation point or something. Those are really, really important. All of the ones highlighted are important. Like the ones that are really thickly highlighted like that and that and that, like make sure you make those stand out somehow. There are,
Middle, on the right.
page 58. You have to, don't use the dry erase marker now, that's leave green. If you want, color this, you can also like just kind of want to sort of shade them. But there are some highlighters up there, stay to you, but that's a lot of not get before. So I'll give you like a minute. Go fast. The highlighting, underlining doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to know sort of circle. You can circle them. I don't care what you. Somehow though, I do want you to make the ones that are really, really bolded, like thicker bold, make those stand out more than the other ones. Those will pop up. Some of them pop up all year long.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about.
Bro, so can I not help you? I just like, I'm so.
See what he asked me. But she's never come into my class. Like she supported other teachers because she supported algebra. So I didn't teach algebra, so she has no idea like this food algebra. Yeah, everybody knows.
I know.
If anybody's ever mean Miss Louie, we will throw hands.
Never met.
What if the class is made her cry last year?
That's what I'm saying. Like, she's like the nicest person in the world, and sometimes kids take advantage of that. That makes me so mad.
Yeah, good job.
I'm gonna ask her about the house. I've asked her about a lot of you. She actually wanted to come in and see who I had, so we talked about a lot of you. She did not say anything bad about anybody. She never would say anything bad about it. All right, so you should be done with that. If not, remember this is recorded. You can always go back and finish it off. And we'll go over and like we're gonna see these in the lessons. I just kind of wanted you to know what some of the more important ones are. If you're still working, you can go back. Nope. Nope. Somebody has it around you or go watch the video. All right, so here's some big ones you need to know. We're doing some of them right now. So just go to the lesson. This is back to page 61. I'm not going to zoom way in. You have it in your book. So don't look up here. Look in your book. I mean, you can look up here to see where I'm talking about, but look at the line that goes D, A, B, C. We've already talked about what array is, so I'm not going to go over that again. Really quickly, you can have different arrays. This is ray C. I don't know if we can call it ray C. This is a different ray if I start there. This is a different ray if I start there. So you can have different rays. Normally you can't be mapped with a ray anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Line segments are what you do map with. So if it's not a line segment, there's not really a whole lot you're gonna be able to do with it. An opposite ray, even though we can't really do, well, so what's an opposite ray look like? What would you think? Well, that just looks like a what? Not an angle. Straight what? Well, that's the name of it. But what's it just like? What's it just look like? If you had never seen anything about rays, it's a line. This looks like a line. All two opposite rays are really is it's a line. So here's the concept though, because you do need to understand one thing about it. So we'll say the erasers are the arrows that go on forever. So these are both rays, like both rays. So now they both have a point because they end. Now I put them together to share that point. That's what makes an angle. I mentioned that really quickly, but an angle is two rays that wind up sharing the same point. So I've made an angle. What's the measure of that angle? Take a guess.
25.
I'd say that's not a bad guess. Maybe a little less than that, but somewhere around 45, right? Because 90, that's about happening. So now I keep opening it. What's the approximation of that angle?
90.
90, right? I can keep going, right? We know obtuse, acute, all that. We're supposed to go over that. You're supposed to already know that. We may use that a little bit. Somebody said there were some questions on that on the EOC, which that's not even a high school geometry thing. But somebody said that maybe it was just in one of the problems. So I keep going. So I pass 90, right? I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
They were
Still an angle, right?
or they were doing really bad on the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I keep going, right? I get to here where now they are opposite rays, right? Going the exact opposite direction. That is an angle. It is a straight angle, but it is an angle. And it is 180 degrees. You have got to know. And kids always know it when we do it. But then it's the first thing that they forget when we start adding it into like some problems. You have got to know if I start with a line, could be a line segment, two rays, doesn't matter. If it is a dead straight line of some type, that is 180 degrees. Oh, by the way, this is your other potential exit ticket. If I then, so let's say there was a point in the middle because they share a point, it's two rays going opposite direction, same thing I just did. Let's say I then do this, I draw another ray coming out of that point. What can you tell me is true about that? What did I just create? I created two more angles, right? I had the one. And I will do this all year long, what I'm about to do. So I'm gonna do it now. I had the one line, how many degrees in a circle?
360.
It's 360, right? So how many in half a circle?
180.
180.
That's why I draw that half a circle. So a line is 180, half a circle is 180. So I'll typically draw the half a circle to show you that. Actually, it was a vertex, actually, technically, where it's here, even though there's really no like pointy part, it's still a vertex because they share that point. The angle shares that point. So what is still a vertex? And now it's a vertex of two other angles. So I have three angles again, technically, right? I have the 180 still. I didn't just by drawing that other ray, I didn't change the fact that I have a semicircle there. I have that big straight line 180 degree. I have now two smaller angles that I created. What's true? What is this? Yes, this is still little plus little equals big. It's a straight line now. So here's what's going to happen potentially on the exit ticket and definitely on the quiz. I may not tell you what the big angle is. Like in the other one, I told you it was 80, right? I said, hey, big angle is 80 degrees. I don't need to tell you what that big angle is. You should know that big angle is what? Yes, the big angle is the 180 degree angle. So if I only do something like this on the quiz, on the exit ticket, not quiz, 5x plus 40, 2x plus 30. I do something like that. That's all I give you. Oh, and then I would have to do that. I do something like that and I say solve for x. Don't set them equal because they're not equal. Don't say, well, I don't know what the big is, because you do know what the big is. So real quick, on your whiteboards, write my equation. You don't have to solve it. Let's go on. And again, that's your other potential exit. Both exit tickets, no matter which one I choose, they're both little plus little big. It's just in one of them, I will give you the big. In one of them, you have to know a straight line is the big. It's 180 degrees. So write the equation real quick. Oh, and on the exit ticket, Setting it up will be one. It's gonna be 2 points. Setting it up will be 1 point. So I will allow you to get partial credit on this activity. I don't always do that. That looks good. That looks good. Look at what you wrote at the end. How did you get it?
Mr. Gill. I get it.
I don't know where you got that from.
Mr. Gill, sorry.
Think about what the big is in that. I already saw, did you already combine? Okay, yeah, you just combine them. That looks good, that looks good.
That's Steiner. Yeah. The 5X.
Oh, yeah, it's 5x plus 40. You can't read that, sorry. That looks good. That looks good. Come on, girl. Are you talking? If you wanted to practice, you can. Or you go to on the ring, that's fine. Good. Yeah, you can, because I can, yeah. The right side equals the right side. Like, that's what this way. They'll equal each other, right? Always, yeah. You saw, yeah, what's the equation? We have to have an equal sign, right? Here.
Oh, no, even not.
For my quizzes, I don't ever worry about. You all, yeah, I mean, you always have to round. They'll tell you normally, I think the 100 place their normal rounds over the 100. So you'd look at the number in the 1000 place, and it's 5 or greater, you would round up. All right, so we're in pretty good shape. If you're solving it out, you can check with each other. I'm not going to solve it out. The only key you have to remember, little, and the big is what? It's the line. I will not give you the big whenever you have a line is the big. I'm not going to tell you it's a 180-degree angle. You have to know that. So 5x plus 40 plus 2x plus 30 equals 180. Most of you are going. All right, really quickly, we'll get through the last thing and then you'll have a problem to do. We won't get as far as I got. I do want you to, I don't know why this is a big deal, but it is on every district test there, sure. They do these things called constructions in the book. Circle on page 63, just where it says construction. And then on 64, there's another one that says construction. I'm going to probably take just those two things, create something like probably one will be on the front, one will be on the back. We'll try to talk about it at some point, but I don't have time. We don't have time to go through and do the activity behind that, but all right, so here's your next big thing. So everybody tune back in. I know I'm losing you. We're going over a lot. You've been pretty good, but I'm just letting you know, tune back in right now. And put your phones up. It wasn't just you, trust me. So here's a big word you need to know, and it's not actually in this right here. I'm just about to use this picture to show you. Well, actually, I'm going to use it. What do these mean? Yeah. They are good. They are congruent. Does it say that in there? Oh, yeah, because it says congruent.
Yeah.
So these are what in an angle, that's how a congruent mark looks. It's like a little curved line. In a line segment, they're just little straight lines. If you have two line segments that are congruent. In angles, they make little curved lines. Just so you know, it does not matter like how low they are in the angle, or how they could have put that one way up there. Theoretically, they'll never do that. How long these are does not matter. What matters is how many of them there are. If they are the same measure, then there'll be the same number of tick marks. If they're different measures, they would add in a second one on that angle to say that angle has a different measure. So you got to understand congruence marks. They're going to be in eventually, like I said, I kind of stopped going over this stuff and I expect you to have it down. And congruence marks is one thing you just got to understand. That means things are the same, or it means they're not the same if you see different numbers of them. That wouldn't be there ever, like I said.
I think a growth marks been made.
I mean, they could have 100 of them theoretically. You had an image, which you'll never see an image with this many, but I mean, think about different shapes. You can make a shape with any number of sides you want. Just keep drawing sides out. Every shape or every corner would be an angle. They could all have a different measure. So they can all have different numbers of congruent measures.
I have congruent line by RS and I have one down by T. Are those two lines same length? Is there like?
So again, that is about the angles. There's nothing saying anything. Now they could theoretically say, oh, and by the way, that line segment is the same length as that line segment. That would be a different thing. That it does not affect anything about the angles at all. This is about the angles. That's about segments if it's on the segment. That answer your question? If not, we can clarify afterwards. So here's the big one, the big concept. This would be a great reminder. It's pretty easy when to actually create. I mean, anybody happen to try to create, like find an app that you can actually put a picture, set a reminder on a picture? You found one? Oh. If you could actually have a picture and set that as a reminder, that would be amazing for geometry. But I try to give you ones that you can at least do in Word. This is one of them. You need to know.
I put little widgets on like my home with a picture as a reminder.
So yeah, anything you can do, if you can get pictures as a reminder, you'd be in pretty good shape for this class. You need to know what that word means. So what does that word mean?
Well, it means two.
So it's going to split it into two, but specifically that they are congruent. They are the same. So it splits something in half is what bisect is. If you bisect something, you split it exactly in half, which means the two halves are the same measure, same length, equal, all those same words are congruent. Means they're congruent. So if RT or TR is a bisector, so that's the other word you're going to see, splits it in exactly in half, which means the two pieces are equal, congruent or equal. So if RT is a bisector for angle, let's use a different color. I like that green. So if RT bisects or is a bisector, and you call it an angle bisector, that means it splits that big green angle exactly in half. That's what these congruence marks would tell you. That red ray is a bisector. It splits the big green angle exactly in half. Again, you gotta know. So again, your reminder could just be, if you really want to be specific to this lesson, an angle bisector splits a big angle into two equal smaller angles. That's the longest version you would need. And then if you want to shorten it up. So again, this bisector split that angle into two equal smaller. So if I had this, keep using kind of the same numbers, but that's. What do those things mean? What are those things that I just wrote? So what are those things about? What are they telling us? That is the measure of the angles, right? They have degree symbol. That's the measure of the angle. So what do we know about those two things? Based on the fact that this is a bisector, what do we know about those two things? Now we're getting into how the question will be. What do we know about those two angles?
They're equal to each other.
It's equal.
They're equal. So if we can say it in words, so here's where I keep coming back to. If you can say it in words, just figure out how to make that into the equation. If I know, and I'm just going to say little angle and little angle. If I know that little angle is congruent or equal to that little angle, because again, that comes from the bisector word. So if I know that is the same as congruent, or again, if it is equal to that, that's my equation. I just replace the word equals with an equal sign. So I know this angle, which I know is 3x, equals that angle, which I know is 7x subtract 45. That's what I solved. So between little plus little is big, and between understanding congruence and bisectors and midpoint does the same thing. A midpoint creates two equal congruent segments. So you would set them equal sometimes to solve. We've covered a ton of different types of problems. You will see the rest of the year. If I don't mind being a little behind, we can save this time later. But all of these things we're doing, you're going to see the entire year. And you're about to see one in 10 seconds. Turn, 64 maybe, you're looking at, for example, 2. 64, 65, 64. So do not look at all of this stuff unless you can't figure it out. Can't figure it out, you can't. They're solving it for you down there. So don't read that. You would not have that. See if you can first set the equation up. Just using the image and the bold, the dark stuff. See if you can set an equation up. And I'm going to give you help in like less than a minute. You're true. So I like to write whatever's in words. I like to write it in the picture. I'm very visual, good for geometry. So I take that and I'd rather see what they're telling me over here in the image. So try to set the equation up for that problem. The key is the bisector thing we just went over. Vixie, are there any tissues on the back table back there? This was actually pretty full a minute. You see some? Oh, there you go. I'll give you a minute, I think out about 30 seconds, and then I'll give you a little hint for those of you truly stuck. If you want to try to solve, I'm not asking you to solve it, but if you're already done with the equation, you can try to solve it. I don't know. What do you think? What is the key? What's the key in it? Think about what bisect means. Say again. Is that you? Well, I'll tell you right now, here's the key. A lot of you are struggling a little bit. That's the key right there. And again, there's multiple angles, so you got to figure out which angles they're talking about. That's the first thing you got to figure out. That's why I like to write it in the figure. I can see visually which angles they're talking about. One of the angles, or maybe even a couple of them in there, they're not using. There is just extra information you don't need. And that's the way the quiz is next week, not the exit ticket. The exit ticket is pretty straightforward. Next week on the quiz, I give you a problem that's an easy problem, except visually I give you more than you need. So you got to understand how to visually break an image down. That might be one of the hardest things in geometry, doing that. All right, so here's your first hint. Well, I mean, I kind of gave you a hint. That is the bisector, BD. I'm actually gonna highlight so we can see through it. So so here's, if I were you, what I would write, I would either highlight or kind of go over that and say that is the bisector. Like, write the word. I mean, it's already written, so I'm not gonna write it again. You know, write the word. Know that that is the bisector. So what does that mean that line is doing? It's a bisector. Split something in half, right? We just got to figure out what it split in half. Well, tells you that right there. It bisects ABE. I would again go to the figure. I wouldn't try to do anything with that. I'd say, okay, well, I know that bisects. I guess I didn't use any highlighters, so I'm going to do this now. It bisects that angle right there. So now here's where the concept comes in. If it bisects that green angle, what does it mean it just did? So what's true about that angle on the left and that angle on the right of BD? So it tells us, so here's why I would write it in. ABD, it says, is 4x plus 14. What's the other one? DBE, it tells me is 8x. Subtract 32. You all just told me, well, I know those are equal angles. So if that's one of the angles, and if that's the other angle, and if they're equal, that's your equation. So now, I got that right. So some of you are trying to add stuff together. This is not a little plus little is big problem. This is I know that's equal to that. So I just need to set an equation or create an equation where I set them equal to each other. I'll do it in a second. My clock's fast. How fast did it?
We got 2 minutes.
It's not. So this is not an add them together. It equals 180. I know you're seeing this line down here, but remember, we're not using that line. They didn't tell us anything about this. We're using that angle. So if you're struggling to get this concept, You need to be working on some IXLs or something. Yeah, that's correct. This was the equation. I know that angle, 4x plus 14, is congruent to that angle, which means they're equal. So that is the equation. We are not adding them together. So you got to keep it straight when it's little plus little is big versus when two things are congruent, two things are equal. Yeah, we don't use 180 at all in this because we're not talking about this line, right? We're talking about the angle that's not a straight line. So you got to be careful. Your assignment is up. So right now you should be able to do page 67, 1 through 11. And then there's also, I've already assigned a bunch of IXL. I didn't print them out this time. I just went ahead and assigned them to you for this month. So I would start with the one that said angle vocabulary and work your way through the rest of them.
So he's been 6 months. My God.
You don't really need to put the whiteboards up. They're gonna grab them in the report period, but if you didn't think so.
If I put in one of my drawings, but you print it out.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know why I live now. Actually, the one that I just put right there, somebody sent that to me, I printed out. Oh, no, you know what? She actually might have printed that one out herself. But most of them that are over there that are, look like they're printed, they emailed to me, yeah, like. That one, or, that one, I printed, that one, I printed. You know, you might talk about retakes? The whole thing on retakes. Are you were in here when I talked about it, you just want to set it up?
Yeah, I want to set it up.
So which one are you doing?
The
Very first one or the
yeah, the very first one.
So again, I'm not requiring tutoring. So whenever you come, you wouldn't have needed it. Whenever you come in, I'm just gonna ask you a question. As long as you can answer that, so any lunch is available, although let's not do today.
Yeah, I was gonna ask for food.
Yeah, tomorrow would be perfect, 'cause I have somebody coming in today that I really want to spend all the time tutoring her today. She needs a little bit of extra help right now.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
And then she's gonna take one tomorrow, so
Yeah.
tomorrow is a good day to come in and take. Wait, when? After did you say? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I was gonna say lunchtime, I have people taking it, and it's hard to tutor on something that people are also taking. But yeah, tomorrow after school is perfect. You like that.
I'm gonna set up a retake, but later.
You are gonna go ahead and do that one again? Or are you talking about the red one?
I don't know, because I don't think I can do better on the first
Oh, you
one.
could totally do that. Go down my line.
Have
If
one?
we did the same exact thing, I kind of probably took for granted you knew some of this stuff better, so I'll probably go over some stuff. We would do a different tutoring. So I know you can do better. Now, again, question is, will it be, if it's only 10 points better from a 70 to an 80? Because a 100 on that one is a little tough. So if it's 10 points worth it, that's up to you. So if you want to tutor, if you want to just say, nah, because I mean, you can still get an A in this class with 170, maybe even 2 sevens possible. So I don't think that that's going to keep you from getting it, if that's your goal, an A. I don't think that's going to keep you from getting an A, but you definitely have to get the exit tickets when we do those, so make sure you're ready for. I guess, no, I'll see you first thing, so we can't really tutor on, sometimes I just tutor on the exit tickets too, but I won't be able to do that with you because you'll be here first thing in the morning. Tutoring at lunch. So we could tutor though on the red one if you want to do that. Whatever you want to do. But just the tutoring at lunch on Friday. If you tutor at lunch, I would only be able to tutor on the red one. That people taking.
This Friday, like,
What is that? What did you say?
I don't know, I wanna.
Oh, you don't, okay, I thought
Yeah.
you had said that. That was Keo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Just decide, just let me know. You got
okay.
a week, so, or more. Oh, yeah, wait. Oh, yeah, third, third. Dude. Oh, yeah, third. You need a whiteboard again, kind of same thing as yesterday, book, whiteboard. Dry erase marker, if you want to grab an eraser, grab an eraser. Calculator for sure. Totally forgot to hand that out. That's fine. Oh, I erased what we were on. Shoot. Totally erased where we stopped the first page. Yeah, I'll have to look at somebody's over. Wow.